I came on today, one, because I believe in what this panel is doing, but more importantly, I need to appeal to this panel to help us save your lives, my life, and everybody's life. We are closer today than we have ever been, ever, in the history of the nuclear era. Since nuclear weapons were used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we are closer today than ever for nuclear weapons being used again. We are literally at the threshold of a nuclear war. This isn't hyperbole. I'm not here to scare you. I don't give a damn what you think. You're going to die unless we do something to stop it. This is on full frickin' automatic. Russia has lowered its threshold for the use of nuclear weapons, uh, including conditions it knows that the NATO and the United States have already met. If Russia assiduously adhered to its nuclear doctrine, they would be able to use nuclear weapons today against NATO. They have opted not to, but we have already passed that threshold. At the same time, we have a Rear Admiral Buchanan in the United States Strategic Command who speaks glibly about the America ready to have a nuclear exchange with the Russians. Do you know what that means, a nuclear exchange? It means a nuclear war. We're ready to have one. Russia has lowered its nuclear threshold, and America is ready to engage in a nuclear exchange with Russia as we speak, right here, any moment. Right now, the United States and Europe are trying to figure out what to do after Russia responded to their foolish decision to allow Ukraine to use ATACMS missiles and Storm Shadows missiles to strike Russia. Russia has responded with a unique missile system, an intermediate range system, which we know very little about. But what we do know, or what we can speculate based upon past practice and what's going on, is this missile is special purpose built to take out targets of concern in NATO deployed in Europe. I believe this missile was developed on the orders of President Putin sometime this last summer to destroy the Dark Eagle missile complex that the United States is. It's a hypersonic intermediate range missile. The Mark 41, Aegis Ashore air defense system that was ostensibly built to deal with Iran, but we all know it was built to deal with Russia. And today, NATO views it as a mainstay in their air defense against Russia. This system is designed to take that out. It's designed to take out command and control facilities, logistic facilities from top to bottom, left to right, all of Europe, using non-nuclear payloads. But nonetheless, this would be a Russian strike against NATO. What Russia has demonstrated is that it is ready right now, as we speak, to strike any target in Europe if Europe gives them an excuse to do so. How will Europe respond? Article 5. According to Joe Biden, this is a sacred obligation. Many NATO nations have been leaning forward, waiting for an opportunity for Article 5 because they believed Russia was bluffing, but Russia isn't bluffing. Russia just proved it's not bluffing. And now how does NATO respond to this? Back down, retreat? Too much political capital has been invested. And there are still people in the White House, in the State Department, in NATO who believe that Putin is bluffing. This was just an experimental system after all. It's not as though Russia really means to use this. Russia's not bluffing. And if we continue to call his bluff, call Putin's bluff, call Russia's bluff, there will be a nuclear war. And I'm very concerned that because we are in a very compressed timeline, we have the Biden administration, together with their NATO allies, admitting that they're seeking to Trump-proof NATO, Trump-proof Ukraine, Trump-proof this policy of the strategic defeat of Russia, so that by the time Donald Trump is sworn in as president on January 20th, he will not be able to change any of this. That means that there's a compressed timeline between now and January 20th to get all of this in place, and they can't afford delays. They can't afford pauses. They can't afford doubt. And my concern is they are going to aggressively move forward, forcing Russia's hand. And then we're going to have Admiral Buchanan's little nuclear exchange. But there's no such thing as a little nuclear exchange. There's no such thing as limited nuclear war. Once the nuclear weapons start flying, read Andy Jacobson's book, Nuclear War Scenario. It quickly spins out of control. 72 minutes after the first nuclear device explodes, we are all dead. That's where we're at. Now, what are we going to do about it? I mean, we can have conferences, etc. I think we only have one chance at stopping this nuclear war, and that is to get the president-elect to become actively engaged in calling out the Biden administration and speaking to the American people. Regardless of what you stand on the election that took place on November 5th, there was a winner. And that winner is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has articulated a policy that seeks to end the conflict in Ukraine and prevent a nuclear war in Russia. If you don't believe me, refer to the article published on The Hill magazine, authored by RFK Jr. and Don Trump Jr., two people who are on the inside of the Trump team. They wouldn't have published this article without the permission and concurrence of Donald Trump. We know this is Trump's position. The American people endorsed this position when they gave him the mandate to govern. And yet now the Biden administration is operating in a way that directly contravenes this, seeks to disrupt this, seeks to make it impossible, and in doing so pushes us to the brink of a nuclear Armageddon. How can we get him involved? How we can make our voices heard? The old-fashioned way. Shout it out from the top of our voices in Washington, D.C. And what I'm asking is that everybody join me in Washington, D.C. on December 7th. I've reached out to Jose Vega. I've reached out to others. Jose has reached out. We're beginning to put together a team that's going to make this possible. December 7th, 2 weeks, we can save the world, save our life, save your life by making our voices heard. If we make it to that, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that we're going to make it to December 7th. And I'm not being facetious. One stupid error and it's all over. The war begins and we all die. But just in case we do make it past Thanksgiving, in case we do enjoy that turkey dinner, we can gather in Washington, D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial and then march to Congress and then march to the White House and make our voices heard that we are going to say no to nuclear war. And that's a hashtag that I want everybody to start trending. Hashtag say no to nuclear war. Get on social media and make this happen. This is it. I don't know what else you're going to do because you're going to die if you don't do this. If we don't find a way to make our voices heard, to let the Biden administration know that this is not acceptable. This is not how we do business. This is not what we, the people, want. That they will continue to pursue these policies to the detriment of everybody. And that's really all I wanted to say is keep an eye on this space as we develop this mission. This is the mission of a lifetime. This is the battle of our lives. If we lose this, we all die, literally. We all will die. We are so close to nuclear conflict, it's not funny. When you have a senior officer in Strategic Command saying openly that we are ready to engage in a nuclear exchange with Russia, do you understand what he is saying? Do you understand that a nuclear exchange means hundreds of millions of dead people? 100 million dead Americans minimum. And they're ready to do it right now. If you're not angry, if you're not scared, you're not human. They are ready to go to nuclear war right now. We need to stop it. Okay.
There we go.
Said he, I want to applaud him for laying out the this case succinctly, accurately, dispassionately, almost too dispassionately. It's not a criticism. It's a reflection of his professionalism, except that people should be changing their underwear in fear after listening to what he said. And yet I think his soothing voice has calmed us into believing that maybe this was just another, academic presentation. It wasn't. He was laying out the imminent demise of mankind. And I want to reinforce that point. The Russian weapon that was used, I'm getting ready to publish a paper on this today, if we make it. That breaks down what I think it is. There's not much literature out there, but if you know the history of Russian ballistic missile design and such, this was a weapon that the it's related to a weapon that the Russians were developing, the Soviets were developing back in the early 1980s called the Skorost. And the Skorost missile, 15 66, was quickly developed by then Minister of Defense Ustinov to respond to the planned deployment of Pershing II missiles by the United States into Germany. The Russians were very afraid of the Pershing II because once you launched the Pershing II, 7 minutes later, it hit Moscow. And the Russians were not happy about that. So they built this missile, the Skorost, which was an amalgam of components drawn from the SS-20 Pioneer, the Mod 3 version of the Pioneer, the SS-25, which was still under development, the SS-27, which was top secret under development. Nobody even knew it existed. And they put it all together in a two-stage missile topped with conventional warheads, and they were going to flood Czechoslovakia and East Germany with these systems and monitor on a continuous basis the Pershing II bases. And the moment the Pershing II went to the field in a in a manner that looks suspicious, they would take it out preemptively. That was what the Skorost was all about, to preemptively take out emerging threats. The system was nearing production when the INF, in fact, it was ready to go into production in March of 1987. But in December, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev signed the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, so the Skorost went the way of history. And in doing so, the Skorost, people need to understand, again, I keep telling people, there was a time when we talked to the Soviets. There's a time when we talked to the Russians. I spent a lot of time at the Russian embassy in the last 2 years attending functions and talking to Anatoly Antonov, the ambassador, and talking to Major General Bobkin, the defense attaché, and talking to his officers and having very detailed conversations. I just, remind, Bobkin was a former, when we started talking, he's a strategic rocket forces guy who was in an SS-25 unit in Novosibirsk when I inspected it in 1990. What a small world we live in. And he was sent to the United States to help facilitate arms control talks, how to prevent the very crisis that we're in. Anatoly Antonov is an expert on the United States. He speaks English fluently. And he was, of course, the man who negotiated the New START treaty with Rose Gutmuller. He was ready to engage again on extending the New START to prevent exactly what's happening. Anatoly Antonov was here for 7 years, and the U.S. didn't talk to him. Bobkin arrived, and the first thing that happened is that the Ukrainians got him blackballed in the defense attaché circuit, so nobody talked to him. Had they talked to him, as I did, they would have gotten an insight into how the strategic rocket forces felt about the INF treaty, about the START treaty, about disarmament, about what Gorbachev did to them, and how they feel that impacted their national security. And you would understand that they were very bitter about this entire experience. They felt that they had been weakened by it and that they were ready to regain the former glory of the Soviet strategic rocket forces. If you know anything, again, if you've studied Russian military history, Soviet military history, you understand that the present day is very much influenced by the past. So when the United States withdraws from the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty in 2019 under President Reagan, Putin said, we view this treaty as being very important to prevent war. And so we will not develop new intermediate range systems and will act as if the treaty is in force so long as you don't deploy intermediate systems into Europe. Of course, earlier this year in a NATO exercise in Denmark, we deployed intermediate nuclear forces, intermediate range missiles, nuclear capable, to Denmark. And Putin said, okay, we're moving forward. And the byproduct of this is the missile that was tested the other day. But people don't understand what this missile is. This missile is the modern day version of the Skorost. You see, the Russians are building a missile that can be pushed forward and be ready to preempt Dark Eagle, our intermediate missile. The Russians just put the Mark 41 Aegis ashore on notice in Poland. That is a target. The target that will destroy it is this. Look at what this was. This is a missile that makes use of not the YARS, which is what the Rubiej, the RS-26, which this is derived from, used the YARS first stage. This uses the Keder first stage, the Cedar. Now, most people don't know what the Cedar is, but the Ukrainians just came out and said that it's the Cedar. How would they know? Well, they have the debris. And on the debris are serial numbers. And the serial numbers show what the booster was. This is the most modern booster that the Russians have. Similar in size to the R's, so as it doesn't change the configuration of the system, but it has unique solid fuel principles that allow the missile to burn in variable speeds, making it impossible to target. The other thing it does is it doesn't use traditional MIRVs. I keep hearing people say multiple, independently targeted warheads. That's not what this was, not at all. This is the new system. The new system is, instead of a bus, a plate, so to speak, where the warheads are attached, that separates from the missile and then comes in and releases the warheads to their target on a trajectory, though, because it's still moving as this happens. What we have now is independent mini missiles that are there, and they fire themselves. So the first stage takes it up, second stage puts it in, and then you fire these independent missiles. And these missiles, each one of them had 6 large submunitions on them. This is where the name hazelnut comes from. Because if you look at a hazelnut tree, you look at the pod of nuts, it's exactly what you see with these submunitions coming down. This missile was developed specifically to take out Dark Eagle missile arrays. If you take a look at the layout, the footprint of the Dark Eagle, where the radar is, where the command and communications are, where this missile is designed to annihilate that. People kept saying, where's the explosion? It's not meant to be high explosive. It's meant to be a kinetic kill. And these submunitions come down and they will kinetically kill everything on the ground. These submunitions come down at such velocity that if they hit the Aegis ashore, it will be a smoking hole in the ground. This is what this missile is designed. Putin just put us on notice that he has a conventional missile system that is designed to preempt anything and everything NATO plans on doing to Russia, and there is no NATO response. There's nothing they can do about it. This is literally the equivalent of the most alpha wolf in the world coming in and pissing all over your home. That's what Putin just did. And it didn't have to be this way. Putin said right there, your withdrawal from the INF Treaty was the greatest mistake you have ever made, because now you have compelled us to do this. And here we are. We didn't want to be here, but because of all the provocations you've done, we have checkmated you. And that's the case. I don't think the West has woken up to what has just happened. It is over for the West. The only thing we can do is nuclear war. And sadly, we have somebody who believes that we can have a nuclear exchange. I just, again, want to have people reflect on what that means. It means the Biden administration is ready to sacrifice 100 million Americans for Ukraine. The Biden administration is ready to sacrifice 100 million Americans for Ukraine. And is that what we want? So I want to thank Professor Starr for his presentation. It was fantastic. But guys, this is as real as it gets. This isn't theoretical. The reason why I went through all this the stuff about this missile is to point out that sometimes when people talk about weapon systems and all that, people feel a little remote from it. They don't identify with it because it's something they don't understand. So I wanted to bring it in a way that hopefully everybody understood what's going on, what this represents, how real this missile is, and what the consequences of our actions are in compelling Russia to develop this missile, and now the impossible situation it's put us in. Because understand, it has put us in an impossible situation, a very dangerous situation. By revealing this missile and showing his willingness to use this, Putin has literally given the West two options: capitulate or nuclear war. We have to find a way to find a third option. We have to find a way to get in between. We have to find a way to communicate. And this is a communication that isn't just amongst an American audience. We have to communicate with the Russians. Now, we can't do it directly because that's against the law, apparently. That's the Logan Act. But we can do it indirectly. For instance, me talking to you. If a Russian is listening to this, copy it to another Russian and copy it to another Russian and get this goddamn message. Excuse my language, but I'm very upset, guys, because we're going to die. And I sort of wanted to spend Christmas with my family. I had big plans for Christmas, and I don't think we're going to have a Christmas right now. That's how dangerous this situation is. We have to stop it. We have to pull out all the stops. We have to communicate with our fellow Americans. We have to send a signal to Donald Trump that you can't just sit there and let this happen. You were elected to prevent this, and they're going around you. You must speak out now. I've invited Trump to come to the rally, to speak out, to let his voice be heard, to rally the American people around him. I'm not asking for a January 6th. I'm asking for a December 7th. It's a beautiful day to do it on, Pearl Harbor Day. Wouldn't it be nice if we could actually reverse the historical legacy of Pearl Harbor, and instead of celebrating December 7th every year as a day when the Japanese attacked it, celebrate as the day that the American people saved their lives and saved the world while they're at it. And after we do it on December 7th, we can then on December 8th reflect on the fact that that's when the INF Treaty was signed. And maybe we can start promoting arms control and get a new INF Treaty signed so that this new missile that the Russians have developed can go back into the trash heap of history, and the Dark Eagle goes into the trash heap of history, and once again sanity prevails as we eliminate the single most destabilizing weapons in the world, which are these intermediate range nuclear weapons. December 7th and December 8th. Could have picked two more historically relevant dates. Let's help make them relevant. Let's redefine December 7th, and let's breathe new life into December 8th. Again, thank you, Professor Starr. You didn't misinform. I just spent the whole night. I'm looking tired because once I get involved in something like this, I can't stop it. It's what I did in the Marine Corps. It's what I did in every job I ever had. Once I got an idea, I just had to keep digging and digging and digging. I've been spending all night putting this together, and I just hope there's enough energy left in my body to put it on paper and get it published, because I think it's something that everybody needs to know.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with another video. In this video, Scott Ritter has discussed about war, and he discussed about current war which is going on, nuclear threat. So guys, if you would like to watch this Scott Ritter's video, you can subscribe my channel and watch my each and every video. Because in my video, basically I upload war related content stories are narrated by Scott Ritter or Douglas McGregor. If you don't know who Scott Ritter is, I am going to tell you because I know about something little bit about Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter is an ex-army officer of US military, and He also a narrator and a writer.
Help!
So guys, if you like to watch this type of video, then you can subscribe my channel. And if you are like to watch related content, then you can subscribe my channel. Now I am playing a BGMI gameplay. I have started this match with 2-3 random teammates, but
死ぬ
from the two teammates already finished and another is knockout.
Form up on me.
The enemy has finished me easily with shotgun. Thank you guys who are watching still. Now I am going to end this video from here because this match is end. So if you like to watch Scott Ritter's narrating content, then you should subscribe my channel. Basically I upload daily this type of video. I hope all will be enjoy this video. I'll be back with another video next time. Bye for now. Hope I hope all will be okay for then. Thank you for watching until the end.